Hi guys, welcome back to the Mission Empowered podcast with me, your host Emily. I hope we are all fabulous. So if you did listen to last week's podcast, you will notice that I did touch on the crap in the background from where I'm going on holiday. And yes, it's still there because we haven't gone on holiday yet. So if you are watching on video and you're thinking, you are a messy bitch, I'm not. There's just no way to put anything. So that'll be gone because I'm packing at some point this week. So now, because I've just touched on going on holiday, this is why I'm doing this episode, because I'm going to cover how I have lost £35 since being pregnant to going on holiday this weekend. So the first thing we are going to cover, if you are new here, I had a baby girl back in October, and I tracked my weight all through pregnancy, not from like oh my God, how much weight am I putting on perspective, more from I want to know. I want to, I'm really big in being in tune with my body. I'm fascinated by what happens to our bodies anyway, especially during pregnancy. So I did track like my weight gain and how much the scales went up. And yeah, just to see what the numbers were. That is all I did it for. And then obviously having the baby and then going through a bit of a fat loss phase post-baby to get back to where I sort of roughly was. I'll touch on that in a minute. Before having Eliza, who's my little girl. I've tracked what that has looked like, and it has come out around about £35. So I talk in pounds. I don't know why, because I think it's quite old school, but that's what we're going to talk about anyway. It's what I've always done. So before I got pregnant, it was straight after Christmas. So we're always a bit heavier, aren't we? So I was weighing in at £155, which I think is like 11 stone-ish. But £155 anyway. Tracked my weight during pregnancy at 39 weeks pregnant. I was pushing just over 187. Annoyingly, I didn't weigh myself before I went into hospital. I was 3 weeks overdue. Oh my God. 3 weeks overdue. So the way that my weight was going, I think I was probably pushing £190. So if we do fast math, 155, 165, 175, 185. Yeah. Okay. Probably up there at the 190. And then I am now £150. So I'm actually a bit lighter than what I was pre-pregnancy. But I know I'm not carrying as much muscle as I was when I got pregnant. So from a weight perspective, I am just not a weight person. Like, I genuinely couldn't give two hoots what are on the scales, right? If I look a certain way and feel a certain way, that is my result. That's where I'm going for. But, the reason I do measure weight is because it does give us a form of information. It is one piece of information that makes up our results. It is certainly never and never will be the whole result, okay? But we are going to cover how I've gone from, like, that's nearly £40 then. Oh, anyway, we'll say 35. But if I think about it, yeah, from going from 190 down to 150 is like £40, isn't it? Which I think was that 3 stone? Let me do some quick math on my calculator. Wait, what am I just saying then? 40 divided by 14. 40 divided by 14 equals, nearly 3 stone. Wow. So the first thing we're going to cover is, obviously, I had the baby. So it's not, I haven't lost 3 stone of fat. Like, I've lost everything that I accumulated, giving birth to Eliza, who was like £8.10 when she was born. Then you've got like placenta, fluids, and all stuff like that. When I've researched like what they think roughly a baby is, they reckon it's about a stone. So a stone of like pregnancy weighty stuff is what you tend to lose quite quickly. So if we take that off, we're then still looking around £30, which is quite good going, I think, in 7 months. So we're going to talk about how I have done it, and hopefully, because the goal has been fat loss for me, you might be able to take some tips from my journey, or you might just want to listen to hear how I've got on with it. So let's go. The very first thing I did, even before I gave birth, was I booked a holiday. Two things really. One, I really wanted to book a holiday. Last year we went, I got pregnant in January and we went on holiday in July or June. Like I was like 32 weeks pregnant when we went on holiday for our friend's wedding. And I'm not going to lie, gals, it wasn't the most enjoyable experience. And if anyone has ever been on holiday in heat, it was when Spain had that fucking mad, ridiculous heat wave as well. Like, I was so uncomfortable. It was just uncomfortable. And, you know, I am at heart, like, I love being a bit of a glam girl. I love planning my holiday outfits. I love feeling nice and like my clothes, my bikinis and stuff. And I just felt a little bit like not like my normal self. If anyone is like an OG and has listened to like the pregnancy podcast that I didn't love being pregnant, and I'm very open about that. Because I think there's a lot of people who aren't open about it, and then we have this stigma of like feeling guilty. But yeah, I just didn't feel that lovely being pregnant. I didn't have like this glow of like where I loved my bump and I loved dress my bump. You know, I don't know. It just didn't happen for me, and it's absolutely fine because you know I freaking adore being a mum. I do love that, and for me it was quite an instant thing of um you know, having the baby. And again, I know a lot of people don't get this, but I love being a mom, and it was quite instant for me of going into mum mode. But yeah, I didn't love being pregnant. I was very open about that. I really struggled with the changes that went on with my body. I found that quite rapidly I dropped a lot of muscle and put on a lot of body fat. Um, I suffered quite emotionally, I would say, at the beginning of my pregnancy. I'm not 100% sure whether I had a bit of like pregnancy depression or something, but anywho, I put on a lot of fat quite early on, and then it sort of subsided as my pregnancy progressed. But yes, all in all, had a quite big bump, and is what it is, right? So I booked a holiday because, like I said, I wanted to have something to look forward to because I love my holidays. Didn't have you know, I had a lovely time on my holiday last year, but I just was uncomfortable. I had to do like a lot of like lying down. I got a lot of hip pain, back pain. I was like, I just want to go on holiday and feel nice. And I really wanted to book something that was a little bit far in advance. I could think, well, you know what? Let's book this holiday as a bit of a mini goal. And when we get to that holiday, I want to feel good in my body. There was no numbers tied to it or anything like that. I just wanted to feel confident again in my body. And I do, and I'm excited. You know, I'm excited to plan my outfits and yeah, just feel nicer than what I did last year. So that was the first thing that I did, and that's the first thing I'm going to recommend for you to do is that not go and book a holiday. I mean, great if you can, but book in a goal. Okay, when do you want to set a little mini goal for you that you think, actually, I want to do some fat loss, I want to get in better shape, and I want it to be by then. Now, you will notice I said I booked this holiday, I think it was like last September. Okay, so we're now in June, right? The goal was big. I knew I was having the baby in October, so that gave me 7 months to sort of put some work in to see where I can get. Do not set a goal that is 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, even 6 weeks is pushing it, okay? Pick something that is about 6 months away, because that is when you are going to get some real significant results if you're willing to put the work in. So the first thing I did, which I'm going to tell you to do, is pick a goal. Okay, go and pick a goal that you're going to work towards. Right, now let's get into the actions that I did to achieve this goal. Sorry, the holiday was definitely the goal, but I have done a photo shoot. I did a photo shoot like 3 weeks ago. That was also a goal, but yeah, the holiday was the big goal for me. Right, so but where did we start with the actions? Okay, so like I would recommend any of my clients, any of you guys listening, when I had Eliza and I was like, okay, I've got my head round, like I've got this baby, I had an emergency C-section, so I knew that I wasn't, you know, going to be smashing the workouts anytime soon. I knew I had to recover, but I still started straight away really with the basics. So after, you know, like I say, that first week where you're coming home, you're getting your head around like your routine and what's going on, I was like, right, okay, I am going to start with making sure I'm hitting my water. I know I can get out for some steps each day, and meal planning. So I didn't go straight back into MyFitnessPal tracking because who has got that brain space when you become a new mum? I didn't have it, but I knew that I didn't have to choose between full tracking on MyFitnessPal and doing nothing. So I met in the middle and I did meal planning. And this was literally probably straight away. Straight away. So I was like, right, okay, because I was so on it with like wanting to recover well as well. I knew that I had to hit protein. I knew that having fibrous foods was going to help me go for a poo, because C-section first poo that you do, what? And so I was very conscious of the foods I was eating and the meal planning. So I started by getting myself a water bottle. So I knew that throughout the day I had to fill out 3 times a 1 litre water bottle. I started just going out for daily steps, and a couple of weeks down, I started wearing my watch. I think I wore my watch 3 weeks after having it, because I remember it was like November, and I was like, okay, I was coming back to work, and I was like, right, I want to start seeing where my steps are now and how active that I'm being. So I started tracking my steps and then meal planning. So I was making sure that I was having the same breakfast, having the correct stuff in for my lunches, and that we were having a protein and veggie based evening meal. So I knew that I was hitting protein breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I knew that I was hitting my fruit and veg quota, and that is what I stuck to up until about Christmas, is that I would have the same breakfast, the same lunches, and plan on evening meals to know that I was getting all that in. Now again, what did I get to at the beginning of the year? So I dropped down to about, I have tracked it, that's annoying, I should have just looked at it before the podcast. So let's say I went up to 190, and then quite quickly maybe dropped down to about 175. That would be about a stone, right? Between 170 and 175. I then, by doing this, got down to 165. So 175, 185. So I lost like 20 pounds roughly just by doing that. Just by doing my steps, my water, and my meal planning. Okay. Then after Christmas, I was like, right, I'm now going to take it up a notch, because I knew that I had a photo shoot in the May and the holiday in the June. So I knew that I had to start putting that work in for January, February, March, April, May. Yeah, for the next 4 or 5 months. And so this is where I took it up a notch, and I was like, right, okay, I am now going to put my meals into MyFitnessPal to make sure that I'm hitting my calorie deficit and hitting my protein quota. Here's what I want to tell you though. I didn't continue to track in MyFitnessPal, which is going to sound wild, because one of my absolute non-negotiables is that you track your food so you know what you're doing. Okay. But I want to be really honest on the podcast. I have done my job for years. I have done many a fat loss phase. And, I'm really good at eyeballing food. But not only that, I'm good at sticking to a plan, because I trust the process. I'm going to talk about this in a minute. I trust the process. I know what works. So what I did was I used MyFitnessPal to put in my breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And because I eat the same thing, I know what I'm eating is in my calorie deficit, and I don't defer from that. I don't change things. I don't do anything like that. I eat the same thing. So I planned my meals in my MyFitnessPal, knew that I was hitting calories and protein, knew that I would have roughly 200 calories for a snack that day. And then I didn't have to go back into MyFitnessPal every single day, because I stuck to my meal plan. And this is where meal plans can be beneficial for you. But what I will say, and I just said it again, I just want to be really, really concrete. I've done my job for years. I'm really good at knowing what contains what calories, what contains what protein. I still, though, weigh all my food. I still use my scale. So although I don't track everything in MyFitnessPal, I still weigh everything. Everything gets weighed still. So that's what I did. I went to the next level, and rather than just being food focused on, oh, that's a healthy meal, I made sure the numbers were now matching as well. And isn't it crazy? Although I've just said I knew this, I was slightly eating out of it. I was eating roughly at maintenance by the time that I tracked everything. So I had to make my portion sizes smaller. So again, if you are one of these people that has never give MyFitnessPal and tracking your calories full whack, but you know that you eat healthy, my guess is you're still eating at maintenance if you're not getting results. And I would highly, highly recommend that you get back into tracking your food on MyFitnessPal. So food input in MyFitnessPal, meal plan, and I repeated it. and I still repeat it now. I have the same breakfast, I have the same lunch. Our evening meals are the same in the week, but we just rotate them. So we have the same 5 meals each week, but we just change them on different days. So every day I'm having a different evening meal, but in the grand scheme of things, it's the same week on week. Whereas my breakfast and lunches are the same day on day. Yeah, I don't get bored. I don't overthink too much about my breakfast and lunch. I'm too busy to think, oh, is this the most exciting part of my day? Like, I think if you're looking forward to food to be the most exciting part of your day, you need to start getting other hobbies or something in that is going to bring you joy in the day. Yeah, yes, we should have some enjoyment from food, but if we're using it as a crutch for all our enjoyment, we've got a bigger issue on our hands. Okay, so repeated my meal plan. When I went to the shops, because I'm having my meal plan, I only bought what I needed. I didn't buy shit. I didn't go and go, oh, that looks nice. Maybe I'll have that for my tea at some point this week. That is a setup for fail. Okay. Go make your meal plan, go to the shops and buy what you need for your meals. That is a surefire way that when you get that, I don't really fancy that for my tea. Oh, but I did buy them, I don't know, southern fried chicken goujons. I might just have them instead with some chips because I fancy it. It's going to stop that happening. Okay. If you have stuff in the fridge, in the house, there's two things that are going to happen. One, temptation is going to kick in and you're only human. Okay. So you're probably going to give into it. Or two, you're going to eat it because you feel like you're otherwise going to waste it. So if you don't buy it, you're going to overcome both of them things. Don't buy stuff because you'll end up eating it because you'll see it as a waste, and don't buy stuff that isn't goal aligned because you'll end up eating it because it's probably going to be more appealing when you're tired, when your energy is low, when that decision fatigue has really kicked in. You're probably not going to eat it. So go and buy the stuff that you need, and that's going to really help you adhere to your plan of your diet, of what you've planned in for your meals. Okay. The second thing I did was, oh my God, this is such a hack. Don't go to the shop hungry. That is like the worst. Okay. Actually, worse than that is hungover, but I'm not going out. I'm not having hangovers, so I haven't been shopping hungover. But hungry, wow, does your shopping list not only look different, but you spend so much more money when you're hungry. So top tip, don't go to the shop hungry. Even if you've had like your breakfast, have like some fruit or a protein shake before you go to the shop and go and do it. I promise you, it's a game changer. Okay. Okay, so yeah, so with the shopping, bought what I needed, didn't buy shit, didn't buy extras, and didn't go to the shop hungry. Game changer. The next thing that I did was I worked around my social. So although I'm saying like I stuck to this meal plan and I ate the same things on repeat, I did still have social occasions. I've had my birthday, we've had Valentine's, we've had feels like about 600 bank holidays. Yeah, I've had mini breaks in there. I've had everything. Mother's Day, right? We don't need to list off all the bank holidays, do we? But anyway, so I've had a lot of stuff going on, and here's how I've managed them. So some of them have been like, okay, I'm going out for my birthday. I don't want to, I really want to enjoy that meal. This social occasion is going to be at the expense of maybe me staying static this week, and I'm okay with it. Okay. I've also had other social occasions where I am like, this isn't going to cost me my results this week. So I'm going to make sure that I look ahead at the menu, pick something that's goal aligned, abstain from alcohol. Like, I've made them choices and I've made them compromises. Like I said, I haven't gone January till June full fucking bodybuilder prep moves. That doesn't align with me. I've compromised though, so there are some things that I have said no to, and there are some things that I have said yes to. Okay, but understanding your expectations and aligning your expectations with, if you're going out for a meal that weekend, then you've got to be okay with the next week not getting the results that you would have got if you didn't have that meal out. And that is just life, I'm afraid. There are so many people on social media telling you can eat out every week, you can drink every weekend, you can get these results, when 99% of us cannot do that. Okay, there are the odd people that can, and this is down to genetics, metabolic rate, high expenditure, whatever it is. But for 90, just put yourself in the bracket of you can't do that, because I promise you the likelihood is that you can't. I'm in that same boat, absolutely in that same boat. And I went through a phase, I think it was about March time, where I just basically stayed the same because it was my birthday and then it was Mother's Day and then that was it, sorry. So it was my birthday, I had my first girls' night out, and then me and Ollie went away for a weekend, like on consecutive weekends, okay? I still did the exact same in the week. Trained hard, did my meal planning, and the compromise of I was obviously overeating at that weekend. Like, so I just stayed still, but I was okay with it. And then I really knuckled down after them little social occasions were done. So you've got to make sure your socials are worth it, okay? But you can't have a social that's worth it every single weekend and still make progress. It's not happening. Get your head around that. There's no ifs and buts, okay? Unfortunately, social media will tell you different, but I'm telling you straight, which is why you're listening to me, because you love it. But yeah, you just can't do it. So I planned out my socials. I looked ahead, look what I had in, and then I was like, right, okay, we can make this work around that. So that was like what I planned in with like my foods and stuff. And obviously on top of that, was still doing the basics. So my steps, I've been doing consistently on average 10K per day. What I have done is on the days so I'm obviously back at work, which is a desk-based job. I've set myself a target and I've said, right, minimum 8K on these days. Some days I've done 8K, some days I have gone up to 10. But then what I've done is on weekends and on days that I'm not at the desk, I am like, right, 12K, 14K, 16K, get out, get them steps up. And I've really tried to leverage my steps on the days that I can, rather than just being complacent. I mean, like, right, well, I'm just going to aim to do 10K every day. I absolutely have tried to do more because honestly, steps are golden when it comes to fat loss. And the more you can do, the better. 10K per day is a good number. But if you can push that to the 12, 14K per day, you're going to see better results. Okay. So I've kept up the basics, kept up my meal plan, done all that jazz. Then when it came to workouts, so like I said, I started working out in December. I was 8 weeks post C-section and started moving my body. I'm not even going to call it a workout. Started moving my body again because, as we know, C-section, fucking full on major abdominal surgery, right? Your body feels different. You can feel a little bit out of whack with it. I've been training for 9 months with this big old belly that then wasn't there. So body awareness and body literacy had to come back as well. So again, I didn't have Eliza and then go straight back into the gym, straight back into dieting. In fact, I actually say I really only started in January because December was just moving my body again, reconnecting my core, lots of deep breathing. So when January came, what I did with my workouts was I was like, right, minimum 3 strength training. On top of that, 2 to 3 cardio. On top of that, and still now, core reconnection. Okay, I'm really focusing on building my posture back up because, again, being pregnant affects your posture, holding a little tiny baby 24/7 affects your posture. I was like, I am not having a hunchback. So she says, stretching out with the computer. I was like, right, I want to, really make sure my core is nice and strong to support me. So, sorry guys, I'm just doing like a full yoga session. Right, so strength then. So like I said, strength, cardio, and core, I had a plan. I wrote it down and I stuck to the plan. I did not chop and change. I didn't get shiny object syndrome. The plan has literally changed once from January till now. We're in June, okay? And when I say change my plan, I mean I tweak my exercises. I keep in, for example, the hack squat machine. Love it. It has been in my program since January and I'm still doing it now. I don't change it. Leg extension, leg curl, that's in there. Pull-ups, dips, they're in there. I incline chest press, shoulder press. Like the staples just do not change ever. Like ever. They are staples for a reason, and it's because they are the most effective. Little things, like I said, might have changed. Like I might have changed a couple of shoulder, smaller exercises, bicep exercises, whatever. But yeah, the core staples did not change. So I had this plan and I have just showed up and repeated. I made sure that from January, every single week, I was progressing. Now that might have looked at my weight's going up, my reps going up, my form getting better. But I have my little logbook and I was making notes of how I was progressing each session. Now, something I want to touch on here is that I've written this in my notes to make sure I talk about it. Action over emotion. I'm going to say in the beginning, so like let's say January till March, 80% of my workouts, I had no motivation. I didn't look forward to it. I wasn't excited by it. I was like showing up as a means to an end, because just everything with like being a new mom, going back to work, I just didn't have. I was very what's the word? Time compressed, constraint. Anyway, time pressured when I was in the gym. I had to get in, I had to get out. That for me isn't that enjoyable. I love going to the gym and having time to enjoy it. So yeah, 80% of my workouts, I wasn't motivated to go. Full honesty, but I did, because I know, or I knew, that if I didn't put that action in place, I wouldn't achieve the goal that I wanted. And that for me was worse than the short-term pain of showing up to the gym. Because when I was there, I was fine. When I left, I was fucking buzzing. Yeah. But getting there was really, really hard. Now, what has changed is that January till March, no motivation, but choosing action anyway, has now paid off. And I am seeing physical development. So I'm feeling stronger. I feel like I look stronger. I'm feeling better in the gym. So I'm performing better. That now excites me to go to the gym. So I'm now more motivated to go to the gym because I've put the effort in when I wasn't motivated. Now, how on top of itself does that sound? Because people rely at the beginning to be motivated. Whereas I know the more you train and the more you show up, the more motivated you get to go. So you have to put the work in when you don't feel like putting the work in, when you don't feel like the results are coming. That is the most important time for you to show up. But also, that is why so many people don't achieve results, or don't achieve the goal they set out to, because it's fucking hard to show up when you are not getting instant return. It's so hard. And I'm being super honest here. I was finding it really, really hard. And there are days I never cried, but there were days where I was like, when is it going to come? When am I going to look in the mirror in the gym and just see a little bit of what I want to see? And then I just had to shut that thought down and be like, well, it's only going to come if I keep showing up. It is not going to turn up if I don't put the work in. So I did. I showed up when I wasn't motivated, when I didn't want to be. I went, and this is why it's really important to chase the numbers. Like I said before, I have my little logbook, and in there I was writing, how did I progress? And I'd write myself little notes like, next week go heavier, this felt too easier, or next week stay the same because this form didn't feel great. Or I was writing, my weights were going up, but my reps were going up, and I was getting better. But that logbook is what made me keep showing up, because although I wasn't looking in the mirror seeing my physical change that I wanted, I was seeing that I was improving in the logbook, and I knew that if my numbers were improving, my results were on the way. And so if I didn't have that logbook and I was purely going off, I don't look any different, I probably would have given up. But I wouldn't have given up, because I knew I know that doesn't work. But that's probably why a lot of people give up, is they feel like, oh, I've gone to the gym for 6 weeks, I don't feel any different, it's not working, I'm going to stop going. Well, you're definitely not going to get there now, are you, if you stop going? And on the flip side of that, if you are not tracking your numbers, how do you even know if you're getting better? How are you tracking progress if you're not visually seeing it? Because I'm telling you now, we've all got so much going in our lives, you can't track it in your head. You have to get them numbers written down. You have to have a logbook. So yeah, with my workouts then, showed up in my strength training, made sure I did my core, made sure I did my cardio, and just chose action over emotion. Like really, really did. And some days I had great sessions, some days I had shit sessions, but I still showed up. So that's what I did from a workout point of view. And hopefully you've taken something from that that's going to benefit you. I then stayed really consistent. And this is the hard bit, because like I said at the beginning, I didn't expect results in 4, 5, 6 weeks. I gave myself 7 months. It'll be 7 months to get this change in progress. So at month 2, when I'd been, I don't want to say 7 because that was like pre-Christmas, and pre-Christmas was really focused on recovery. But like, let's say January then. So let's say we got to February, and I'm in month 2, and I do feel like, oh my God, June's so far away, but that's the end goal. Like, I had them thoughts, and I just had to be like, look, be consistent. You don't have to hit it 110% this week or do anything over, like, what's the word? Like, you don't have to overachieve this week. You just have to show up and be consistent. And then June will be here before you know it. And it is. June is here. The photo shoot's been and gone. And I remember being in February and still feeling like not myself and thinking, oh God, am I going to feel any better? And I had to really like coach myself and say, you are, but only if you keep going. So shut that voice down that says, why is it not happening now? I want it to happen now. And just pop it in a box and just be like, I'm going to show up anyway. Because I promise you, it is the showing up continuously, consistently, that before you know it, you will look in the mirror and go, there it is. That is what I've been doing the last 6 months now. It doesn't just really I click my fingers and brilliant if it was that easy, but it's not. And it doesn't happen over like one day, but I would say there is a bit of a turning point over a couple of weeks where every outfit you put on, you feel good in. Every time you catch yourself getting out the shower in the mirror, you go, oh, it isn't just like a day thing, but it's like, oh, there's a little bit of muscle. And then it just grows and it grows and it grows. And then this is where, like I said before, that motivation comes from, is that you know that the hard work is paying off. So you want to keep going. And that's essentially what I'm doing at the moment. So I stay consistent. I know, because I know, obviously being a coach, I know what works, and I know that trusting the process is what you need to do. And there are going to be times where you want to give up and you don't want to trust the process, but they are the times that you need to push through and break through. And once you do that, that's when you start to get to the other side. So what have I written here? So it looks like cottage. Oh, committed. Sorry. Looks like cottage cheese. It's not. Yeah. Again, it's just an add-on, really, being committed to the goal. And I started this pod and said, set yourself a goal. If I didn't have a goal in sight, what am I committed to? Where is my end date? What am I working towards? So that's why having a goal is really freaking important. Having a timeline is really, really important. So because I had this timeline, it made it easier to be committed. I knew that I was putting underwear on to do a shoot on the 10th of May. I know that I'm getting in a bikini next week, and I want to wear my holiday, not even a bikini. I want to put holiday clothes on and feel nice next week. That is my goal. That is making me stay committed. So throughout this time, I had sticking points. As I said, I had weeks where the scales didn't move. I didn't feel like I was seeing any physical change. I was showing up to the gym and I was feeling demotivated. I didn't want to be there. It was hard. And I was like, right, okay, I just really had to dig deep and just not overthink it and show up anyway. Like, I could not tell you, but there were some times I drove to the gym and literally was like, just drive to the gym and turn around to come back, go for a walk. Just do that. Just do that, Em. Like, genuinely, these thoughts are going through my head. And I used to let these conversations play out as I was walking into the gym, because deep down I knew once I was in there, I'd be so embarrassed to turn around and walk back out again. I wouldn't. So, like I said, I had sticking points, but when you are, you have to trust the process and know that sticking points do happen. Like, it's very rare that someone makes progress week on week on week for a long periods of time, not for like 4 weeks or 5 weeks, but for like 16 weeks. To not have a couple of weeks where things don't move is very, very common, but that's where people give up, and that's where you have to keep showing up and push through. Like I said, for me, that happened, and I did have these sticking points, and I had to go back to the drawing board and be like, right, is my food on point? Am I pushing in my training? There was 1 week where, I can't remember when specifically it was, but I think I'd like sort of stayed the same for like 3 weeks, and I really didn't feel like I was progressing. So I was like, right, I know my food was the exact same, but I looked and I was like, yeah, it was that time when I was really hating going to the gym. So I took a deload. So I basically said to myself, look, go to the gym, but just do what you want this week. Just it's really hard to explain on this, but basically with my training program, like I said, I was tracking my numbers, I was pushing weight, and I was falling out of love with it a little bit. So therefore, I probably wasn't showing up and putting the effort in that I should have been. So I said to myself, just go to the gym and do what you want. So, and it's funny because as soon as I gave myself permission to do that, I ended up actually having really good sessions. But I had a bit of a deload week where I just allowed myself to take the foot off the gas. Don't track numbers, just show up, move your body. And once I did that and just gave my body that little bit of rest, I then came back in full force and was like, I am so ready to go again. So even from my perspective as a coach, knowing what I know and doing what I do, I still needed to have a little mini break to take my foot off the pedal to come back to put it back down harder again. It happens, okay? So but what I didn't do is say to myself, right, have a week completely off, tracking food, completely off your meal plan, don't do any exercise like that. And that is not good for us, because I feel like that makes you feel like you've gone 5 steps backwards. You can take your foot off, but what you don't want to do is take your foot off, close your eyes and drive into a brick wall. Like, that's not going to set you up for any favors. So yeah, I just didn't give up at the sticking points, and I did have them, but I pushed through them. So let me have a little look what I've got here. Another thing that I got my mindset around was, and this is something that a lot of people suffer with, right, is that the results I deserved. So I never got cross at the scales for not moving. Even in that sticking point, I didn't get cross and be like, this isn't working. What's wrong with me? Blah, blah, blah. It must be my hormones. It must be. I didn't look for blame. I was not moving forward because I wasn't doing something enough. I either wasn't in a calorie deficit, or I wasn't training I wasn't training hard enough, or I wasn't hitting my steps enough. Should we just quickly cover a funny story about the steps though, because this is quite true. So I bought myself a new watch after the baby, a new stepwatch, and I was like, great, love this. Started tracking my steps in 9 November, and I was like, oh my God, being a mum, I am nailing steps. Like, I was coming up with like 18,000 steps a day. I was like, wow, this is busy work. And then one day we were in the car driving, and I got a notification on my phone saying, like, you've done 10,000 steps. I was like, how the fuck have I done 10,000 steps? I've been in the car for 45 minutes. Looked at my watch, and my watch was picking steps up as I was driving. So I was like, that's not good. And then I then looked, and it was, Eliza was tiny. So, and my watch was picking up my steps as I was judging. I was like, I have been well and truly shafted. So I got myself a new watch, and then I wore it, and it was a correct watch. And I was like, oh, that's maybe why I'm sticking, because my steps aren't 16,000, they're 7. Devastated. Anywho, changed my watch, got my steps back up, but I didn't get cross and think, oh my God, something's wrong with me, something's not working. I just went back and thought, right, what am I not doing? And this is something so many people are so guilty of, okay? I'm going to tell you now, you're listening to this, you're probably guilty of this, okay? You blame something else rather than yourself. If you're not losing weight, you're not in a deficit. And that might mean you're not in a deficit with your food, with your energy expenditure from steps or effort in workouts, okay? Them 3 things are why you're not achieving fat loss. It isn't your hormones. It isn't anything else you want to pass blame on. It's because you're not in a deficit. Stop looking for blame. Go back to your drawing board and be like, okay, am I 100% tracking everything? Or am I going here and there with my diet? Am I showing up to the gym, tracking my weight and making sure I'm PB in every exercise via form, reps, weights, whatever, okay? Are you doing your steps? Are you doing enough on your steps, okay? Go back, look at them, because I guarantee, like I said, even me as a coach, it can slip because you're fucking human, okay? Right, so I didn't, like I said, the results I got, I deserved. And if I wasn't getting the results that I wanted, because I wasn't working hard enough. So I went back to the drawing board and was like, right, let's do more steps. Right, let's maybe pull calories slightly because my weight had come down. So where am I going now then? Because I've talked for 40 minutes. This was meant to be a short one. So that, in a nutshell, is how I've lost 85 pounds. Sorry, it wasn't the most exciting thing, girls. But the truth is, fat loss isn't exciting. It's repetitive. It's about being consistent. And it's about giving yourself enough time and not giving up and pushing through of the non-sexy stuff every day. But eventually you will get there. You know, if I said to you now, look, in 6 months' time, you can lose 35 pounds, you would probably bite my hand off. But the transition from starting to getting there is going to look monotonous. It's going to look the same. And it isn't going to be, you're going to wake up in 6 months and have lost 35 pounds. You're going to be there in 6 months by showing up every single day, doing the basics, then implementing a little bit more, pushing through when the sticking points happen, going back to the drawing board when you're not getting the results you think you should be getting and finding out what's wrong. Like, that is what's going to get you to where you want to be. And that is what's got me to where I am now. And hopefully I've been like quite honest with this. Like, I haven't found it easy. I've struggled. Motivation has been low, but I knew where I wanted to get to. I knew what it was going to take to get there. And it literally was just showing up. The days that I wanted to show up, great. They were a bit easier. There were a lot of fucking days I didn't want to show up, but I did because I knew I wanted to get here. So what's next then? So I am taking a little bit of a break from fat loss. So I've got down to 150 pounds, which is, like I said, that's lighter than what I was when I got pregnant. For me, I'm not as strong. No, I am as strong. I don't have as much muscle. Okay. I want a big muscle mama. That is my thing. Okay. So I'm going to take a little break from fat loss. I am going to focus on just being a powerhouse. And in order to be a powerhouse and get that muscle, I need fuel. And so I need to take a break from fat loss so I can have enough calories in me to build some muscle. And then I am going to do another little diet towards the end of the year. So around about when Eliza is like gonna be coming up to 1 or just after she's 1, I will do another little fat loss phase again. And again, there's no specific number on what that's going to look like for me. I just know that I want to put on a little bit of lean muscle, feel really strong, feel really good, because when we go through these breaks of fat loss and focus on performance and fuel, it then makes the next time we do fat loss really easy again. If you haven't listened to last week's pod, that is what it's all about. It's about having phases and structure in your fat loss journey. But yeah, like, I'm not where I want to be, and that's okay because I'm really happy with where I am and I'm proud of what I've done the past 7 months. But that's the exciting part of the journey, is that it is exactly that. It is a journey, and we do get to continue working on goals and keep moving the goalposts and striving for better. So for me now, taking a little bit of break, enjoy my holiday, you know, feel good in my clothes, feel good in my bikini, feel proud. That's what I'm excited about. Feel proud. I'm going to come back, go through a bit of a strength, have a little break from dieting, and then I'll go again and I'll keep you updated. Of course I will. But girls, I hope this has helped, whether that's with your journey or maybe just a little bit of a thing where I know a lot of people think, oh, it's easy for you, like it's your job, like it's fucking not easy. Yeah. And I will hold my hands up and say I'm also not one of these genetically blessed people that was, you know, always had muscle or always a certain shape or size. I've had weight struggles previously, and I have to work hard. So yeah, I think that makes me a good coach, is that I can empathize with someone who does have to work hard to get to the results that they want. But is it doable? Yes. Everyone. Doable for everyone. Okay. So I'll leave it there. Let me know if this helped. I love getting your messages on Insta to say that you enjoyed the pod or you related to it or anything like that. Please share it on your socials. It really, really helps me to reach more women. That's my aim of the game. And yeah, like I said, drop me a message on Insta @_em.powered. And I will see you. I might try and record another pod for when I'm on holiday. But otherwise, I'll see you when I'm back. All right, guys. Love you. Bye.